we got 1 year of motocross in the books. What are the biggest takeaways that I had this year? How much did I improve? And most importantly, what can I do to better myself for next season? Well, we're going to cover all of that in this video. As I'm going to give you my 5 biggest takeaways from this year, essentially the 5 biggest things that I learned in this first year of riding motocross. So if you are a new rider, vet rider wanting to get better, or maybe you just got a dirt bike and you're thinking about motocross or GNCC or whatever, stick around because this video is definitely going to be for you. What's up, everybody? Thomas Brandon here. Thank you very much for joining me here at the Brandons. Flying solo today. My son is at school right now. We're getting ready to go to school. Haven't had a chance to really do many videos, but we do have a bunch of content coming because we're at the time of recording this. It is November 12th. And we're getting into the winter months, and we're going to be doing a couple of bike builds. My bike is getting completely redone. I'm going to be building it into a real race bike for next year, and then we got to get my son an 85, and we'll be building his bike too. So really quick, how did this year go? Well, this year actually went really well. Couple things before we dive into the list. First of all, I rode the entire year. I did not get hurt. That is huge. That is hands down the most important aspect of this year. Going into it, you know, I own an auto glass business with my brother. We're partners in it, and that was like his biggest thing. He was like, dude, you cannot get hurt. Don't be stupid. Don't get hurt. And so every time that I went out and rode, my number one goal was to be safe. And I knew that if I would ride correctly, right, if I focused on proper technique and being smooth and things like that, that I would be safe and the speed would come. So that was the biggest, most important thing from this year. And it worked. It did work. Now, did I improve as much as somebody who's just out there like, dude, I'm just going to send it for the next 12 months and we're going to see where we're at when it's all said and done? Probably not, but I did improve, and I improved a ton from where I was at. So that's huge. Let's dive in here to our list. Now, keep in mind, these are in no particular order except number one. Number one is the most important thing that I learned, and it is the most important thing to know. Whether you're new or maybe you've been doing this for a while, but this was hands down the most important thing ever when it came to motocross. All right, so let's dive in. All right, number one, check your ego at the door, or check it at the gate, or dissolve your ego, get rid of your ego, whatever you need to do, but do not have ego. If you are new at this, let me just explain this to you. You are going to get smoked. You are going to watch 5 and 6 year old kids fly by you on their little Cobra 50s. That's what's going to happen. It does not matter. Doesn't matter. Those kids have been riding since they were 2. They've got 3 years on me, right? So when I went out there and I first started riding, it was like, dude, you're going to be last. You're going to be in the back of the pack. You're not going to know what you're doing. You're going to be slow. That's okay. Your ego is what's going to get you in trouble out there. Because let me tell you right now, when I'm out there riding and I'm getting passed by 8-year-olds and I got 10-year-olds jumping over my head, not when I say over my head, I don't mean like I'm jumping and I look over and they're above me. No. I mean, we come out of the corner and I'm rolling and they're jumping over my head. Like, dude, you don't think I want to be like, all right, let's go? Definitely. But I don't, because I know that I'm not ready to do that. And if I do that, what's going to happen is I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get hurt bad. And then all that progress I made, I'm now having to start over. Because When it comes to motocross, when it comes to any skill, but the thing I've learned with motocross the most is compounding. Being able to compound all those little things that you learn, boom, 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 boom. Dude, they stack up and they stack up huge. And before you know it, you're going to go from a snail's pace to a respectable pace, right? You're not going to be A class ready for Loretta's in 9 months, but you're going to be moving much, much better. Okay, and that's what I was able to do this year. I went from being able to, I'm looking straight down right in front of my fender, hardly moving, to passing people and maintaining decent speed. Keep in mind, I have a long ways to go, and I know that there's going to be more to come, but you got to keep that ego in check. If you don't, it is a recipe for disaster. Number 2, proper training is an absolute game changer. So what do I mean by proper training? Well, you go online, there is no shortage of motocross coaches, trainers, clinics, programs. They're everywhere, okay? I'm not here to tell you what's good or what's bad, like who you should use or who you should. I'm not here to tell you that. Please do your own research. What I will tell you is there are 3 that I actually purchased programs or like used their stuff, and all 3 of them made a huge difference. This is in no particular order. The first one is Method Moto, which is Ben Townley. The other one is MX Factory. That's Tyler Livesey. I bought a program of his. And then the other one that I've used and I'm still a part of is Moto Academy, which is AJ Catanzaro. I'm probably saying that name wrong. But his is an app, and dude, it's only like $20 a month or something. Like, it's not very expensive. And inside the app, you have, dude, there's a ton of stuff, and it breaks it down by your skill level, your everything. So like if you're a kid who's coming up and your goal is to do Loretta's, like they've got training programs in there. If you're a vet rider like myself and you're, just wanting to get better and, you want proper technique, the attack position, braking, throttle, things like that, it's got that stuff. So you could check those guys out if you want. I have no ties or affiliation to them. They do not know me. They would not know me if they tripped over me in the street. But those are the ones that I've personally used and purchased stuff, and it worked wonders for me. You see, when I grew up riding dirt bikes, we didn't have technique. We watched the guys on TV, but we never thought about riding like that. We always just did like lazy man riding. You sit down, arms down, just feet out on the pegs, right? So you can get to the brake and the shifter easily. And that was kind of how we rode. Every once in a while, we might stand up and get like if we were riding a BMX bike, but we weren't. It wasn't proper. We weren't squeezing the bike with our legs. We weren't on the balls of our feet with our heels dropped and all those things. We weren't doing none of that stuff. To us, proper technique was, dude, I hit that jump and I landed it. Like, I didn't get bucked off the bike. I must have done something right. Like, that was proper technique for us. So to be able to actually learn the proper foundation, right, when it comes to just something simple like, the attack position, okay, the proper riding position. Ryan Hughes has this on his YouTube channel too. A bunch of those guys that just listen, they all talk about it. It's a game changer, because being able to really lock in with the bike and feel, it sounds so cheesy and like cliche, but like feel at one with the bike is huge. It's huge because it allows you to build confidence, which takes away that fear, which is so important, especially when you're newer, right? I grew up riding dirt bikes, but then, 08, 09, I stopped riding. I never did motocross really. I was always just like a trail rider. Every once in a while, we might do a little single track or something, but that was it. And then to come back at, 41 years old, get back in the dirt bikes and start doing motocross for the first time, building confidence is huge. It's everything. So to be able to do that was incredible. And to have the foundation laid to be able to get better and better and better each week and have stuff to work on it's amazing. So if you're wanting to do this and especially if you're wanting to be safe, check out one of those guys or go find a trainer online, something, or maybe where you're at. I'm sure there's a local guy who works with people. Just be careful. Some of the pricing's insane. They start charging a couple $100 a day and stuff. It's crazy. Go look some of that stuff up. find some free videos online that cover basics of attack position, things like that, and then go out there and practice. And it makes a huge difference. So number 3, and this one kind of piggybacks off of what we just covered, but it's really important. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So this is something that I learned early on, and I've known this my whole life. This was something that I've when I coached baseball and other sport, basketball, and when I would coach my son's teams and things like that, and growing up myself when I was practicing and things like that in sports, I knew this. But a lot of people don't. They think that if you go out and you just keep practicing, you're going to get better and better and better. And that's not the case, because what happens a lot of times, and I notice this in motocross more than any other sport, because of the physical toll it takes on you and how quickly you can get tired. When you start getting tired, if you're out there doing motos, you're out there practicing stuff like that, you start getting tired, pull off, because all you're going to do is you're going to fall into lazy riding habits and just reinforce bad habits. You are going to make permanent bad habits, and you don't want to do that. It is far better to go out. Like if you go to a ride day, for example, this last weekend, I went and rode on Saturday before I raced on Sunday. I did 5 motos. Okay. Probably a little overkill before racing on Saturday, but I did 5 motos. Every moto that I did, except for the last 2, were at least 15 minutes. Okay. A couple of them were closer to like 20, 25 minutes. The last 2 that I did, because I was starting to really get tired, were only about 10 minutes. And I pulled off. The reason why is because I knew when I start getting tired, I'm sitting down earlier into the corners before I need to be. I'm doing stuff like, when if I put my leg out, I'm not lifting it as high, or, I'm doing just lazy riding habits. You don't want to do that. My arms are dropping in the corners, things like that, like these little things that we think are not that big a deal, but they are. They absolutely are. So when you go out and practice, you go out there and you focus on 1 or 2 things, and you work on those things, because it makes a huge difference. And when you do that, make sure that you are focusing on those things, because when you start getting tired, that's when the bad habits come. All right. So don't go out there and be like, I'm just going to go out and do 4 20-minute motos. No. Make sure you know exactly what you're focusing on, what you're thinking about, what you're doing, and then go out there and do that. And when you start getting tired, because it's going to happen, pull off. Don't reinforce bad habits because you've gotten tired and being lazy. Then you're being lazy. All right. You don't want to do that. Trust me. I did, and it cost me a couple of weeks. I mean, it really did. I backtracked because I was out there just turning laps, doing bad habits because I was tired. All right. Number 4, and this is probably the most important thing when it comes to we talk about speed. Okay. Speed is made in the corners. Jumps are your biggest focus in terms of safety. Okay, so this is something that I really learned this year. When you first start doing motocross, you start thinking like, "Oh my God, dude, I gotta learn to hit these jumps, or I'm never gonna be fast." That's actually not the case. There are guys in the Over the Hill gang, which is the vet motocross group that I'm a part of, and it's huge. Dude, there are guys out there, they're not hitting all the jumps. They're not Bubba scrubbing triples and stuff like. They're not doing that. They're out there literally flying through corners. And then I've watched these guys roll jumps, right? Just do a simple like a soak up scrub, right? They're not even doing like a soak up, where they're just soaking up like you're on a BMX, like a pump track. And they're flying. Now, yes, they hit doubles and they do hit jumps and stuff like that, but they're not out there just, right? These guys they're not going to hit the fly 150 at Hangtown. They're not doing that. You know what I mean? They're not launching gravity cavity. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not doing that. Their speed is made in the corners, and they're running up front. They're fast, man. They're really fast. So when you are thinking about, I want to get faster, I want to be faster, I want to be smoother and faster, focus on corners. My goodness, focus on corners. It is everything. I learned that a few months ago, and the vast majority of my time in terms of like when I'm doing drills and stuff like that is corners. I mean, just stuff that you think is so dumb, is so pointless. It's not. Figure eight drills, right? Simple cone drill where you're just carving a turn track over. Dude, it makes such a big difference. The ability to be able to go through a corner fast and smooth is huge. You are talking seconds upon seconds of time that you will gain just by doing that. You could take somebody fast through the corners and they roll every jump, and that dude is going to beat the vast majority of guys who are just slow through the corners and hitting jumps. 100%, dude. 100%. So corner speed, focus on that. Don't get caught up in the jumps. Jumps are for safety. You obviously want to learn how to jump. You want to be able to clear obstacles and things like that. Yes. But don't get caught up on like, dude, I got to clear that big triple. No, you don't. Don't even worry about it. There's plenty of vet guys out there that I see who don't clear those jumps and they're flying. You ain't got to do that. You can just big triple, hit the double, roll the last one. Boom. Call it good. I mean, seriously, I've seen guys do it. They're fast. They're running up front. Corners, that is where your speed is made. It's in the corners. You learn to soak up and do things like, you know, some simple vet scrubbing, like soaking up. You learn to do that on some jump faces, man. Hit a few obstacles, but you fly through the corners, and man, you're going to be good. All right. So number 5, this is probably the hardest one to grasp because it sounds contradictory, but it's super important. Slow and smooth, smooth is fast. It's so important. So we used to say this back when we were running dirt cars back in the day. And even in my sim racing business, you know, I tell people all the time when I would do trainings or coachings or stuff like that, slow and smooth, smooth is fast. Being smooth is so important. You watch somebody like a Jet Lawrence, right? The guy looks like he's barely trying, but he's flying. Then you look at somebody like Eli Tomac, who when you're watching him, you're like, dude, that guy is absolutely just manhandling that bike, right? But there's very few people who can do that. There's very few, right? There's one Eli Tomac. I do think you're going to start seeing a whole lot more Jet Lawrences, and what I mean by that is I don't think they're going to be as good or better than him, but what I mean by that is people who are just super efficient on the bike. The bikes nowadays are so good. Dude, even my bike, which is 25 years old, updating the geometry with the front end and the swing arm and the suspension, all things like that, made such a big difference with that bike. That thing's pretty good. Right? Like this offseason, when I do the build on it and stuff like that, I'm going to make it a little bit better. And next year, it's going to be, is it as good as a new bike? No. But dude, the bikes are so good. So learning to just be efficient on the bike, being smooth on the bike is so important. It's what really separates you. Yeah, man, it looks cool and you're out there and those guys are just blowing up berms and they're just flying and it looks like they're just manhandling the bike. Like, dude, I get it, man. That stuff looks awesome. And when you're riding a 2-stroke like myself, there are times you have to do that. But even then, you can still be smooth with it and maintain roll speed and momentum and things like that. So being smooth is so important. And you do that by slowing down. When you are overdriving, I used to call it overdriving your eyes. When you overdrive your eyes, meaning you're riding faster. I used to talk about it in terms of racing when I was working on sprint cars and stuff like that. When you're driving faster than your eyes can keep up, right? You're overdriving your eyes. It's the same thing on a bike. You're overriding your eyes. Slow down. Take a step back. Slow down. It's far better to roll through, you know, those braking bumps as opposed to charging in, slamming on the brakes, and then coming out, right? Be smooth. Slow down. Take a step back. You'll notice how much better not only are you feeling on the bike, but how much better you are flowing through the track. And that is huge. All right, you guys. So that's going to do it for this video. I really appreciate you guys joining me, but these are the 5 things I wanted to share with you. You know, the biggest, you know, things that I learned this year doing motocross, and it's been so much fun. I love this so much. I wish I had never stopped. Not only that, I wish I had done motocross when I was a kid. You know, I had it when I was growing up. I kind of had it, opportunity to do like outlaw karts, or I could have, maybe gone the motocross path. And I didn't do motocross. I wish I had, because it's so much fun. And it's literally, to me, it's the greatest therapy in the world. And to me, it's the greatest sport in the world. And I shouldn't say I've done them all, but I've done the vast majority of them, right? All the major stick and ball, football, baseball, basketball, soccer, right? Street hockey, outlaw kart racing, dirt track racing, I've done a lot of sports, and hands down, motocross is the best in my opinion. Motocross / supercross, is the best in my opinion. There's nothing funner, there's nothing better. And the fact that I can go ride, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, depending on where I'm going, is amazing. And the most important, I shouldn't say the most important, but the coolest aspect of motocross is it's the only sport. Think about this. This is nuts. It's the only sport that you can do until the day you die at a high competitive level. Meaning, look at vet riders. Jeff Emig, right? One of the greats in terms of motocross, won a supercross championship in 1997, right? Like, the dude is amazing. He's still out racing today in vet classes. And you can go do like big, legit vet racing, like huge races. Yeah, you're not on TV. You're not, you're not riding A1, but you can go do competitive, high level competition forever, for as long as you can get on a dirt bike and ride. That no other sport is like that. No other sport is like that. Would you watch a football game with a bunch of 55 and 60-year-old dudes? No, you wouldn't watch that, right? After you're done playing high school football, you're gonna go. Where's the amateur leagues, right, for tackle football? They're not out there. You got some place they got semi-pro or whatever, right? Baseball, right? Where's the the amateur nationals for baseball? There's no such thing. Not for adults, right? You got it for kids, but not for adults. Basketball, none of those sports have that. Motocross is the only sport that has it, which makes it so unique and so fun, because you can still go out and compete at a high level into your 70s. There are dudes that I ride with at the track, they are in their 70s and they rip. It was so cool to see. Like, I hope I can do that when I'm their age. And he's still out racing on the weekends. It's awesome. So I love it. If you're just getting into it or back into it, or you've been doing it, whatever, you can attest to this. It is amazing. It's so much fun, and you don't need much to do it. It's not cheap, but you don't got to go out and drop $100,000 on a race car, or something like that. So yeah, I love it. Me and my son are looking forward to next year. We got a bunch of content coming. We got bike builds and stuff that we're going to be doing. I am going to do a video covering, showing some race footage. Obviously I had some B-roll rolling and this and things like that, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you very much for joining us. You already know all the YouTube stuff to do, so if you want to do that, sweet. If not, oh well, we'll see you in the next video. And until then, as always, take care.